But me, your man, Louie T, welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Now, of course, I'm your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Dressed in all black like the omen, which means one of two things. Either we took one, slam on the chin, or I'm the bearer of bad news. It's not really either of those things today, necessarily. I'm really just ready to move on from Eric Bieniemy as a whole. But Eric Bieniemy, as we all saw, got the offensive coordinator / assistant head coach position at UCLA, somewhere where he coached in the past as a running backs coach. UCLA just recently hired former UCLA running back Deshaun Foster, who played a number of years in the NFL, most notably with the Carolina Panthers, and was a damn good college football running back for the UCLA Bruins. Hired him as their head coach after Chip Kelly left the program about 3 weeks ago. So Foster hires Eric Bieniemy to be the offensive coordinator. Good for EB. I told you I have no ill will towards Eric Bieniemy. I wish him nothing but the best in all of his future endeavors. But one of the big things that came out of him being hired was he sent an email to ESPN to kind of clarify some things. And I don't necessarily have an issue with him doing this because remember, I don't know if you guys remember when the news came out. It was the press conference that was held on February 5th. Introducing Dan Quinn as the new head coach of the Washington Commanders. And one of the questions posed to him during that press conference was what the role of Eric Bieniemy would be here. Would he be retained on the staff? And Dan Quinn pretty much said, no, I appreciated, having a conversation with him. And I love that he took his shot last year, but he will not be on this staff in any capacity. And so that's not saying that he was fired. That's just saying, no, we're going to go in a different direction. Fired means that you have additional time here and it's been cut short. That's not necessarily what happened here in Washington. Now, did he have more time on his contract? I would assume so, maybe a year or two left. But once a staff is fired and you're a part of that old staff, it's commonly and universally understood that most of that staff will not be retained. That is the word that is usually used, is retained, because we're moving on, out with the old, in with the new, right? So why is it that the language for EB was that he was fired? That's not what Dan Quinn said. He never used that word. And that's not how we ever address coaches that aren't retained. Nobody said that Jennifer King was fired from Washington. Nobody said that, linebackers coach or wide receivers coach or, this coach or that coach was fired from Washington as they got other opportunities elsewhere. That's not how we usually term it. So why did they do that for Eric Bieniemy? And I said that in the moment. I did not like that ESPN released a heading that said he was fired. That was stupid to me. I thought that was negligent and it was really disrespectful to Eric Bieniemy, personally. That said, I told you, he didn't have to go home. He just couldn't be here. You just had to get the hell up out of here. So Eric Bieniemy wrote an email to ESPN to clear the air. And he probably was sitting on this since February 5th when they released a big-ass heading that said Eric Bieniemy fired as Washington offensive coordinator, which was stupid because they said that as if there were 2 games left in the season and they promoted the quarterback's coach to offensive coordinator for the final 2 games and they moved on from Eric Bieniemy. Or the head coach is still here. He fires EB and looks for a new offensive coordinator like Ron Rivera did last year with Scott Turner. That's fired. Okay. It's assumed that guys aren't back when what's different and what's against the grain is when a new staff comes in and they retain coaches from the last staff. That's something that goes against the grain, not guys being retained or being moved on from. So I thought that was bogus by ESPN, but EB going on record with ESPN and sending them an email, which we're going to take a look at one of his quotes that got some play here. And this is an excerpt from an article that was on the SB Nation Commanders page, Hogs Haven, right? I think it's Hogs Haven. I think it writes in an email to ESPN Saturday confirming his decision to join UCLA. Eric Bieniemy mentioned he had other NFL opportunities and that he had been applauded and lauded. He talked about why he was excited to join Foster and help UCLA, and then mentions his former team. I have no regrets with the Commanders, Bieniemy wrote. Contrary to what some think and what has been put out in the media, I was not fired. I actually chose not to stay. Learned a lot, and that is always a good thing. So let's talk about that part, right? That he wasn't fired, he was not fired. That's poor wording. That's a poor choice of wording by ESPN, and I called them out for that bullshit when it happened. However, to then go on to say he chose not to stay, let me stop you right there, okay? Let's talk about that. Could he have been offered another role here? Say running backs coach? Maybe. Is that far-fetched? Is that out of the realm of possibility? I don't think so. He was here a lot longer than most of us thought he would be after the season expired. We thought he would be gone with pretty much the rest of this staff, and he was retained here a lot longer. One, because you wanted to give the new coach an opportunity, really the first right of refusal, right? You wanted to give that next guy that you bring in here the right of first refusal on Eric Bieniemy. Do you want him or do you not want him as your offensive coordinator, right? He's still on the contract. Do you want him or not? Dan Quinn's like, nah, I'm good. I got an idea of who I want to be my offensive coordinator. I already told you that in the interview, so you already know I want Cliff Kingsbury. We're going to see if we can go get Cliff. If Cliff's not available, then we'll figure out where we go from there. But Eric Bieniemy was never going to be the offensive coordinator here, okay? Now, did Eric Bieniemy get an opportunity here in Washington to be something else? You want to be the running backs coach and the run game coordinator like they gave to Anthony Lynn? And he's like, nah, bro, I'm past that in my career now. I'm an offensive play caller. I know it. You know, EB feels like he's been slighted, and I don't blame him for feeling that way. And he feels like he should have gotten an opportunity already to be a head coach, and I don't blame him for feeling that way. He did not take advantage of the opportunity that he got here last year, and so it kind of pushed him back down a bit in the NFL. He said he had other opportunities. You didn't have any more opportunities to be an offensive coordinator. Not one team asked permission from Washington to interview you for an OC job. So don't talk about other opportunities here. You might have had other opportunities to be a running backs coach, to be a run game coordinator. You might have had an opportunity to take your ass back to Kansas City in some capacity. Yeah, you might have had opportunities, but let's not act like you had opportunities to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL, because if you did, you would have taken that opportunity and you wouldn't be back in the collegiate ranks. So let's pump the brakes on that. Let's drive slow, okay? And let's not act like you chose not to stay here in an offensive coordinator capacity, because that's what you're kind of insinuating. So let me stop you there too, okay? And let's pump the brakes there, and let's just make sure you clarify, because ESPN didn't do a good job of clarifying that you weren't fired. So I get it, how you can be somewhat ambiguous with your answer here. Probably did that intentionally. However, we're not gonna let that shit slide, okay? You did such a poor job here. We can't let that shit slide. Like, you could have still been the offensive coordinator here. Stop that shit, okay? Bye, Eric. Bye. Take your ass on with that bullshit. If you were here, you would have been in a different capacity. Running backs, coach, something like that. I don't know if that would have sat well with some of the players that remain here who didn't necessarily love what you did last year. Don't think that would have sat well with a lot of them. He probably needed to go in all capacities. But you wouldn't have been the offensive coordinator. So don't act like you chose not to stay here, okay, as an offensive coordinator. You might have chosen not to stay here in a different capacity. I'm not calling you a liar, because you may have been offered an opportunity to stay on staff in some other capacity. But you damn sure weren't going to be the offensive coordinator here. All right, so cut your shit. Okay, bye, Eric. Bye, EB. Bye. Lastly, and one of the main reasons I wanted to come at you was I told you I was going to put together a poll question for you guys. And I wanted you guys to let me know what you wanted to see me go on to as the next position in the Draft Prospects 101 series. Also, I had somebody complain about the orange background. I like the background personally, but if it's tough on your eyes, I will change it. So you guys let me know in the comment section of this video as well. Do I need to change the background or not? Is that a problem for you? If it's not, I'm not going to change it. All right. I may not make it orange again in the future, next year and years, moving forward, but I always like to change the color, right? Every year. Last year it was blue. The year before that it was black. This year it's orange. I like the orange. You let me know. Is it a problem? Is it hard on your eyes? Do you think I need to change it? If you say yes, if enough of you say yes, I will change it. If a lot of you don't, no, it's not a problem, bro. Don't worry about it. Only one person complained about it. So as of right now, I'm not changing shit, but I'm going to ask just because somebody complained about it. Maybe others feel that way and just didn't say anything because it wasn't that big of a deal. But now that we're talking about it, if it is an issue, let me know. But I'm going to leave the poll question. The link to the poll question is going to be pinned to the comment section of this video. All right. You can also just go to the community tab and it'll be there as well. But this is going to be a turn and burn poll, meaning literally you have all day today. By tomorrow, I'm taking the results and we moving forward with the process. So it's a turn and burn. So if you don't watch it today and you vote tomorrow, your vote may count, but it may not actually weigh into the decision-making process. So vote as quickly as you can. What position you want to see next. I'm going to give you 4 or 5 options, however many YouTube allows in their polls. And then we'll go from there and we'll go to the next position. Okay. So that's going to do it for me. Your man, Louie T, here on the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys in the very near future. Until then, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.